Hey Overthinkers, my name is Courtney and welcome to the Overthinker Guide. So in this video, we're going to share some tips for first-time cruisers. By the time this video comes out, I would have been on 10 cruises. So I love cruising. That's my favorite way to travel. So I'm hoping that I have enough to give some tips for first-time cruisers. I will give a disclaimer that most of my cruises happened when I was younger and didn't have to pay for it. I've only been on 3 cruises where I've paid for it and planned it out myself. And I've picked up some things here and there. This is probably the first tip for most of my videos, and that is research your ship and research your trip. I think I said this in the last video, but your ship and the cruise line that you choose could make or break your vacation. So if you're seeing these commercials, like you're seeing Carnival commercials or Royal Caribbean commercials, and you're like, oh, those look really, really fun, they look exciting, those are most likely for newer ships. So think of, and I can only name Royal Caribbean because I haven't been on a recent Carnival ship, although I think the Mardi Gras is one of their new ones. But, or not new ones, but that's the one that a lot of Carnival cruisers really like. But for Royal Caribbean, think of Wonder of the Seas, Icon of the Seas that just launched recently. Pretty much any of their Oasis class ships, they're more exciting ships. So those are kind of the ones you're going to aim for. But where you are wanting to go on your cruise, if that's more important, sometimes that's going to be on an older ship. So you kind of have to determine which one do I want to focus on, the ship or the actual destination. So I feel like that's like a tale all the time, like is it the destination or the journey? So for instance, story time. Just for instance, the cruise I went on last year in January for my birthday, I really wanted to go to New Orleans first. And then I wanted to go on a cruise, so I said, oh, let me just find out if there's cruises leaving out of New Orleans. So that was my main thing. So I didn't necessarily care about if the ship had all the bells and whistles, because I just wanted to go on a cruise out of New Orleans. So because New Orleans is a smaller port, it's only going to accept smaller ships, and the smaller ships are normally the older ships. And we went on Radiance. Now, like I said, that's an older ship. That's like, I think it's over 20 years old. But I still had a good time on there. They had mini golf, rock climbing, trivia, scavenger hunts. I still had fun and things to do, but like I said, it doesn't quite match what you're seeing on those commercials. That's why you should research your ship. So if your itinerary is important, look at the ship, find out if there's things to do. You can look for YouTube videos of ship tours or people on the cruise on your ship, so you can just see what they were doing on it. And that's why if you research, you kind of know what to expect once you get on. When you're researching the ship, there could be theme nights. So for instance, for Virgin Voyages, they have Scarlet Night, and that's a night where you wear some red and have a good time. But different cruise lines might have a 70s theme or a 90s theme, things like that. So if you want to participate in those things, it's good to research ahead of time so you know what to pack. Another thing, like a pajama party, that's what Virgin Voyages has. They have a pajama party on the first night. So you don't necessarily have to pack nice pajamas. You can wear any pajamas to the pajama party, but I don't know, I feel like it's nice to have some nice pajamas or even funny pajamas to wear to the pajama party. But research for things like that so you kind of know what to pack for. Things like formal nights, because I believe most cruise lines have formal nights, and for some of them it's optional, for some of them I do think it's mandatory, but you can pack for that and kind of figure out when those days are, or specific shows, because there's usually nightly entertainment that's specific to that ship. So definitely do research on that. And speaking of research the ports. So in the last video, I talked about how people were saying, oh, there's nothing to do at the ports. Well, you have to research, and I'm gonna say it again here. when you research reports, you can find out what's around the area. You'll find out if it's a different country, which more than likely it's going to be. You'll find out what their currency is, what they accept. I feel like more often than not, specifically in like the Caribbean cruises, they'll accept US dollars. But again, if you research that, you'll know ahead of time what they accept or don't accept, what languages are spoken. Sometimes it's obvious, but still research it. Research things to do. Your excursions are there for things to do also, but if you're not going to go on an excursion, knowing what you can do once you get to the port is helpful. And there's definitely port guides, port guide videos out there. I'll try to see if I can find some and link them, because they helped me when I wasn't sure what to do at certain ports. Also, a tip, if you are sailing out of a place that you've never been to before, so like again for me it was New Orleans, I've never been to New Orleans, research that port too, find out what you can do there, and that way you could potentially start your vacation early, which that's going to lead into the next tip. Fly in at least a day before your cruise. I would definitely say this for first time cruisers to fly in a day before, because anything can happen. It could be weather issues, it could be system issues, plane issues that delay your flight, and then you don't get to the port on time, and the ship leaves without you, and then you're crying because you're not on your vacation. So that's why it is always suggested to fly in at least one day before. If you've never been to the port before, I would suggest flying in maybe 2 days before. Some people might fly in 3 or 4 days before just to, experience that place. I will admit, I have flown in the day of, I believe twice, and then I took a train the day of once. And it was fine, I didn't have any issues, but that's a risk. Because again, especially if you're going during hurricane season, and that's normally when it's cheaper because it's hurricane season, you need to fly in the day before. Just prepare for worst case scenarios, so that way if there is a delay, you still have a day. Honestly, I'm gonna say this for driving too. If you live a little too far, but it's still not too far to drive in a day before, because anything can happen to your car. Another tip, I would suggest buying any medicines before you leave for your trip, because normally on the cruise ships, they either have a limited, like little over-the-counter medications, or it's overpriced. And that's on the ship, and it could be in the ports. If you're trying to buy medicine, they may not have what you need, or again, it might be overpriced because they know you're a tourist in a touristy area. That's why I would say try to get all of your medications that you think you might need before you leave, because then it's in you're getting your preferred brand that you want and for the price that you're used to paying. So my next tip is to check in early in the app, whichever app for the cruise lines you're using. So typically the cruise lines will have an app, and you can kind of check in. You're not really checking in, but you're kind of filling out all your information. So your emergency contact, your card payment, if you're probably gonna need a card on file, your passport or birth certificate information, and I think I already said emergency contact, but that information already filled out. Go ahead and just get that out of the way, so that way it's already done, and it's gonna hopefully save you time when you're actually checking in the day of your cruise. Now, after post-pandemic, we're still in a pandemic, post-COVID height, they're now having health surveys. I don't remember if they had health surveys before, but they're having health surveys that you will have to answer like 24 hours before the cruise, at least 24 hours before the cruise. So just do that ahead of time to save you some time. This is also where you'll choose in your check-in times. So that's why I say it's check-in, it's not really checking in. So I normally choose the earliest check-in time so I can get on the ship first and kind of just avoid all the drama. But you can choose whatever check-in time works best for you. Okay, so I said check in whenever you want, but I would try to board as early as possible. That way you're starting your vacation. You're not gonna sit in a super long line if you're boarding the first check-in time. Every time I've checked in early, I've gone in like 30 minutes max, and then at the very least like 10 minutes. So that's why I say to choose the early check-in time, because the later in the day, the more people, and you're just gonna have to wait a very long time. Another tip, which I should have said this earlier, but download the cruise line app. It's gonna save you a bunch of headache. Even if the app is awful, still download it. It'll help you with what there is to do for the day. There's quite a few cruise lines that no longer give you the physical kind of itinerary for the day. They just put it all in the app. So download the app. I said this in the last video because you can, for most cruise lines, you can use your birth certificate, but I would get a passport. It just makes things easier and faster to get through. So like, especially when you're getting off the ship, like for Royal Caribbean back in Labadee, we were in Miami and we got off the ship, and because we had our passport, we had a separate line, and all they had to do was scan my face and we were done. We were done with customs. Whereas if you had a birth certificate, you had to go in a separate line, and I think a longer line, because I remember this family came out like 10 minutes after we did. So I just think it's easier to get the passport. If you're like in the process of getting it and it hasn't come in yet, then I understand you have no choice but to use your birth certificate. But a passport just makes things easier. So for first-time cruisers specifically, when you are choosing your cabin, try to stick in the center if it's your first time, because when you're in the center of the ship, there's less rocking. So this would be considered midship, is what they'll call it. There's less rocking back and forth when you're in the center. So since it's your first time, I would definitely say middle ship. Try to get a midship room, a central room. And then onto that, should you do insider, ocean view, balcony, suite, what have you, that's going to be a personal preference. The interior is going to be the cheapest. It has no portholes, which means, like, I was going to say no windows, but it's technically a porthole. So it has no view of the outside, which means it gets really dark in there. So if you do get an interior, just get a nightlight. I need a window, or excuse me, I need a porthole. So I will at least get an ocean view. But now that I've been on a balcony, I've been kind of spoiled, and I feel like I gotta have a balcony now. But ocean view is a little bit more expensive than the insider, and then balcony is more expensive than the ocean view. Suites are just normally bigger balcony rooms. They might have some additional features depending on the cruise line that you go on. So you just have to figure out what works for you, what works for your budget. Also, like I said, I have to have at least a porthole, so I'm not doing an insider at all. But if you want to do the insider because that's what fits for your budget, and you are not going to be in your room most of the time, then go with insider, so just do what works for you. See, this video is going to be a little long. Drink packages. So we're going to move on to drink packages. So I feel like this is always a debate. Is it worth it to get the drink package? Again, that depends on you. For me, I don't drink like that. Alcohol or other. Hi, baby. So alcohol or otherwise, the most things I drink is water. So getting a drink package doesn't really mean anything to me. That's just an extra cost that I don't really need. If anything, I would get the soda package because maybe I'll want a soda here and there, but it only includes soda. But they do have drink package calculators. So it kind of breaks down like, this is how much it costs and this is how many drinks technically a day that you would drink for it to be worth it. Now, my thing is, if you're thinking like that, you probably don't need the drink package, and you can just do a la carte. If you want to have unlimited amount of drinks, I would just go ahead and get the drink package, but just know it's going to add on to your cruise costs. For alcohol drink packages, it'll normally, if one person who's over 21 gets that drink package, everyone else in the cabin with you who's over 21 automatically has to get that drink package. Now, you might be able to call them, like especially if someone's pregnant, then you can say like, oh, I don't drink, or oh, I'm not drinking for different reasons, and they might be able to take it off. But just keep that in mind that if one person gets it, everyone's going to get it, unless you call them to hope to make different arrangements. They do have non-alcohol drink packages, so it's like a step down. It's more than it has more than soda, but it doesn't include alcohol. That's also another one I might consider getting if I like really want to try different mocktails or things like that. But more than often than not, I don't need a drink package, but that's me. So again, this is a do what works for you situation. And I'll try to see if I can link some drink package calculators down below. Okay, so we talked about the drink package. Now we're going to move on to another type of package, which is the internet package. Some cruise lines are starting to include internet with your fare, but I think more often than not, you do have a separate Wi-Fi package. So when you're on a cruise, you're kind of cut off, and sometimes that's a good thing, but sometimes you want to stay connected. You want to post on social media, you want to still be able to communicate with your friends and family if you're going solo. So you can determine if you need an internet package. I got one last time, and I think I'm going to continue getting the internet package. It worked well. I could still check my emails, check on my house, things like that. But if you want to be disconnected and all of your family is with you on this cruise, then you might not need the internet package. So that's just another add-on to consider. Sometimes, like certain cruise lines will combine the Wi-Fi and drink package. That's what I did recently, and it worked out. Tipping and gratuity. I don't know why this is a debate. I don't know, this maybe because I'm an American and tipping culture is just what we've been raised on. But I would suggest prepaying your gratuities. That is because more often than not, people are blindsided by the gratuity charge. No, there is going to be a gratuity charge. I would suggest, again, prepaying it that way. That's one less thing you have to worry about paying for at the end of your cruise. That's actually another tip. Try to prepay for most of the things that you can. So buy your excursions ahead of time. If you're getting the drink package, buy the drink package ahead of time, internet package ahead of time. Try to buy all of these things before you get on the trip, because it's already taken care of, and your bill at the end of the cruise will be less or non-existent because everything was paid for. So if you can, try to prepay before. Sometimes people don't want to tip. I don't know why, but sometimes people don't want to tip, or they feel like the service wasn't good enough for a tip. But you can dispute it if you were just treated horribly. You can dispute the gratuity with guest relations, and then so that's tipping just for the cruise itself. Like I said, prepay. Then we have tipping for your tour guides, tipping the bartenders, tipping the porters that take your bag. I personally like to tip the porters and the tour guides. I don't drink, like I said before, I don't drink, so I don't really go to the bar to tip them. And then, so with the bar specifically, there's already 18% gratuity automatically added to your drink orders. But if you really appreciated the bartender's service, you can tip them extra. You can always tip any of the people extra from the base gratuity if you would like. They actually give an opportunity for that. But that's not necessary because, again, you're already being charged a gratuity. But if you want to tip extra, you can. When you're packing, this is for travel in general, but when you're packing, make sure you leave room in your bag for any souvenirs, because it would suck if you had packed your bag to the brim and then you found this really cool mini statue, but you can't fit it in your bag. So now I'm getting into packing stuff. You can buy magnetic hooks, because on the cruise ship, your room is metal. Magnetic hooks seem to be really helpful for spacing. You can buy magnetic clips to clip any cruise documents or excursion tickets up, things like that. Pack a carry-on bag for the cruise ship, because more often than not, you can either leave your bigger bag with the porter or you can take it on with you. I've done both, and I actually think I'm gonna leave the bag with the porter from now on. But if you have a carry-on bag aside from your bigger bag, that'll help, because you can keep if you need your medicine and you don't have access to it, you can get that. And I'll get more into the carry-on bag for embarkation day tips. But bring a carry-on bag. going back to tipping, bring cash for tips. So I said bring cash for tipping, but know that you won't use cash on the ship to buy things. You would only use it to tip people, because you'll have to pay everything with either your card or your band, whichever cruise line you're on. They have a Sea Pass card for Royal Caribbean. They have Virgin Voyages has a band. So that is your form of payment, are those cards or bands. Well, that's why you do need to have a credit card on file, so that you can make those charges, because they won't accept cash unless it's a tip. This is really important. Keep an eye on the ship time. There's ship time, and then there's the local time, and sometimes those two times are different. So just make sure when they say be on board at 4 p.m. and in your port time it's 4 p.m. it's 5 p.m. there, or vice versa, keep your eye on the ship time, because you do not want to get left behind. I always try to make sure I'm on the ship, honestly, at least 2 hours before onboard time, but sometimes I'll do an hour before. So, because I don't want to get left, okay? And I don't want to have to deal with that, because some people, they think, oh, they're not gonna leave me, and they get left. So don't be one of those people and keep an eye on your ship time. Okay, good. This is a good one. It'll say it in the bathroom. Close the lid to the toilet seat before you flush the toilet, because there's a really powerful suction in those cruise toilets. So close the lid. Don't be sitting on it and flush, because that could lead to a very bad situation. Close that lid. If you do get a balcony room, make sure you close the balcony door, because one, it'll mess up with the air conditioning if you leave it open, and two, you could create a wind tunnel if maybe you're outside, left the balcony door open, and then someone who's in the cabin with you opens the door in the hallway. It creates a wind tunnel. Those are all my tips for first-time cruisers. I know that there's some I forgot, but if you are a first-time cruiser, you're going on your cruise soon and you have questions, leave them down below. I'll see if I can answer them for you. Fellow overthinkers, if you've been on a cruise, answer also if you have any tips. If you liked this video, please leave a like down below and consider subscribing if you want to see more videos like this. Our next video is going to be about specifically embarkation day tips. So this embarkation day means the first day you're getting on the ship. So that's a very exciting time. So hopefully, it's probably not going to be as long as this video, but hopefully it'll be helpful. But until then, I will see you later, overthinkers. Hi, baby. Okay, alcohol or otherwise, I do not drink that often. The most things I drink is water.